Carlin Tim. Hi, I'm Rob Tim. I make him do this stuff so he can put it on his college application, because, I mean, who can afford the bribes anymore? Welcome to the 4th Ignite Annapolis. I am Rob Tim from 103.1 WRNR here in Annapolis. This will be an evening filled with folks just like you, sort of, more or less, who will share their burning passion with you in ways that are guaranteed to spark conversations among you and your friends long after this evening is over. Thank you for being part of a sellout crowd this evening. That's pretty amazing. And being part of a great gathering that shows intellectual curiosity in America is not dead. No, it's more like what Frank Zappa said about jazz. It's not dead, it just smells funny. If you're new to Ignite Annapolis, Ignite events happen all over the world. This is the 4th Ignite Annapolis, the 3rd here at Maryland Hall. And I don't know if they imagined it getting this big, but co-founder Jen Troy is here tonight. She suggested this event to our other co-founder and current organizer, Chris Schock, following the success of Ignite Baltimore. So how does tonight actually work? It starts with volunteers. Everyone working on Ignite does so out of the goodness of their heart or the lingering effects of childhood issues. Organizers, also, it's a great alternative, like if you're thinking, maybe I should run for the board of the Homeowners Association, or no, I could work on Ignite, that would be so much better. Organizers raise funds to cover production costs. Anything extra, and there will be extra, goes to charity. Thanks to the Friends Foundation for facilitating our fundraising for the event this evening. Now, when it came to thinking about the beneficiaries for Ignite this year, it seemed in many ways obvious. Proceeds tonight will benefit the Capital Gazette Memorial Scholarship Fund. In memory of some of our finest citizens and our most cherished neighbors. The fund benefits students of the University of Maryland's Philip Merrill College of Journalism, and this means that your attendance here this evening will help to ensure that the best among us will continue to ask the hard questions and tell the hard truths in perpetuity. So, how will this work tonight? 15 potentially intriguing humans will each use 5 minutes and 20 images to give you something to think about. You will leave here this evening richer than you entered. After the first 8 speakers, we'll have a 20-minute intermission with light fare from Saucy Salamander and beer, wine, and water available for purchase. This actually is what you were training for during snack time when you were 6. Okay. Well, there's no longer any reason for me to be standing here. It's time to get Ignite rolling and spark some thought. And we'll do that with our first speaker this evening. Please welcome Griff Hall.
I want to talk about using empathy and listening to help people play their music. I stumbled on this idea during a job I had in college as a stagehand. Our biggest show was a funkadelic lineup with the stars of that 1970s era, Mother's Finest, Bootsy's Rubber Band, and the headliner, George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic. My job was to change the guitars and instruments between sets. And during the first set change, I was at center stage with the lead singer's guitar in my hand when, boom, the set lights came back on. Guitar in hand, I faced 10,000 frenzied fans of funk. All of them could tell I was not a funk master. Hey, white boy, let me see you play that thing. Where's your band, white boy? Come on, let's play that funky music. We kept the stage lights off for the second stage set. But the crowd still knew I was there, and amidst their raucous noise, I completed my mission, even though I was completely unnerved. After the concert, a simple defining thought crossed my mind. Every member of that audience felt like I did, and maybe every day. All I did was get a taste of it, and it was a taste of understanding someone else. And to really understand someone else, it's a little bit like setting the stage for them. It's easy to say, but it's hard to do. And here are three ideas that have helped me along my journey. One of my favorite acronyms is this one. Why am I talking? It is a reminder to listen without needing to respond, whether or not you agree, and to listen for what's really important. Imagine you're in charge of the stage and it's their music that will be heard. You may change the set by the questions you ask, but they are always the musician. The third idea that has helped me is volunteering. Through my involvement with Bella McCree, I've seen extraordinary examples of using empathy to help individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities play their music, and indeed, it is a beautiful sound. Through Leadership Anne Arundel, I've gotten to know people from many different backgrounds. Listening to them has led to relationships, and these relationships have changed my perspective and my life in enormous ways. I'd like to give you a famous example of a stage setter with a not-so-famous person, Josef Korbel. He was a professor of international politics at the University of Denver, and although he wasn't famous, he's had an enormous impact on the world stage because his daughter is former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright. She credits her father's example as setting the stage for her. But Josef Korbel also served as a mentor to a promising student, Condoleezza Rice. Initially a music major, it was Professor Korbel who sparked her interest in the Soviet Union and international relations. Dr. Rice describes him as a central figure in her life. And I've had the honor of hearing both of these former secretaries of state credit his influence on their careers and helping them to rise above previously unbroken ceilings. Indeed, he set the stage to help them play their music. I've spent a good bit of time in Dayton, Ohio, which, coincidentally, is the funk capital of the world. It has a rich funk history, and there's even a Funk Music Hall of Fame there. And you can bet I still look pretty out of place. But while in Dayton, I stumbled onto something that brought this notion of stage setting full circle for me. The writer and physician Oliver Wendell Holmes once remarked, "Most people go to their graves with their music still inside them. It isn't that they cannot find their music. It isn't that they do not have music. It is that they do not believe they have music, so they never look for it." You can help someone to believe they have music by setting the stage for them. It takes empathy and listening. So my challenge for all of us here tonight is this: whose stage are you setting so they can play their music?
Hello, my name is Paxton Paganelli, and tonight I'll be speaking about for the future of human health and medicine. So, before I wanted to be a doctor, obviously I wanted to be a wizard, but that I never got my letter from Hogwarts. It must have gotten left with the owls. But so what did attract me was medicine, and medicine it really has two core components: an art and a science. The art being the creativity and the humanity, and the science, of course, being breaking down the complexity to understand human nature. And so I wanted to learn more. I wanted to learn a lot more about medicine, but never really had the opportunity with mentors or people that I knew. I tried, coming from Bronick Elementary, the Magothy River Middle School, and then to Bronick High School, I got straight A's. I did everything I could, but I still couldn't hear from different doctors or talk to different doctors to really know what it was like. And as you know and have heard the status quo, it's just the way that it is. But people that have inspired me are those that challenge this statement, challenge the status quo. And a person who inspires me is Florence Nightingale. For your Game of Thrones fans, kind of like the late 1800s equivalent of Mother of Dragons, Breaker of Chains. And though she didn't break chains, and she more so broke unsanitation policies. But so to get this thing rolling, we started a club at Bronick High School, and we formed a relationship with Dr. Mark Broussard, who's a local orthopedic surgeon, who's provided a lot of great opportunities. But the bigger problem is with the lack of mentors and medical exposure is the faulty pipeline, just generally across the United States. And you have students leaking out, all across America because of mentorship and financial reasons. And this leads to medical inequities. And you wonder why different care, or why there's different care among different people across the United States. And you have to really look at medical representation. And on top of that, the Association of American Medical Colleges predicts a 100,000 plus doctor shortage, which is really going to cripple the most vulnerable communities in our country and in our town. But progress isn't slowing down. With the different human genetics and various therapeutic additions, we're having rapid developing technology and treatments, but not the availability to give it to everyone in our communities and across the nation. What we need better connections between the local medical communities and the youth in our communities. So what we have done with the Future of Human Health and Medicine organization, formerly the Future Doctors organization, is provide showing possibilities, empowerment, and a place for community for students that might not otherwise have exposure to opportunities. And as you can see, some of the accomplishments we've had since we started in 2012 was providing 350 students with exposure to medical opportunities, 150 medical opportunities, and this year we're having our 7th annual medical career night. And again, we started at Bronick High School. We're moved to Severna Park High School as of this year with 40 plus requests from around the country and even internationally to bring these exposure programs. And what we want to do is provide more opportunity starting here in Annapolis. As you can see with the Mars rover, it was a sad month in February when Opportunity was decommissioned, but it turned from a 9-month expected project to 15 years of solid research. And one of the exciting things that we're working on right now, and that we're just near the completion, is filming 3 fantastic local medical professionals getting their story so that students like in our organization and then across the United States can really hear the stories of a lot of different medical professionals. And to really capture the essence of the future of human health and medicine is a quote from Nkosi Johnson, who unfortunately was a victim to AIDS and HIV and lived to age 12. But what he said was, do all you can with what you have in the time you have in the place you are, especially with a community and empowering community. So with that, thank you all for listening, and thank you to all these people on the screen for their help in helping get FOMO to where we are today.
Good evening. My name is Chris Schock, and I am excited to share with you how dog rescue restores my faith in humanity. Okay. First, to be clear, I am not the hero of this story. The rescuers are the heroes. I am a supporter of dog rescue. The great news is you don't have to be a rescuer to benefit from dog rescue. I have always prided myself on being a glass half full kind of gal. Through the ups and downs of life, more often than not, my approach is the glass half full. That approach has been deeply challenged over the last few years as my desire to be well informed has conflicted with my desire to remain sane, especially on the internet. I am not alone. According to a 2016 election survey, politics have impacted online relationships. This data was recorded following the 2016 election, and I can only imagine it has increased over the last couple of years through the midterm elections and government shutdown. Anxiety and worry about the future are not new topics. What is new is their relationship to politics. The quickest way to lose all faith in humanity is to read the comments section of just about anything on the internet. According to the Washington Post, social media and the 24-hour news cycle cause so much stress, one therapist coined a new term, headline stress disorder. The Post's recommendation? Channel your concern to make a positive difference on issues you care about. Enter Hope for Paws. Around the same time of my internet spiral, I found myself drawn to dog rescue videos online. Any of my Facebook friends can tell you, sooner or later, about everything I posted was exclusively dog rescue videos. Hope for Paws is one of the best. They follow a simple formula for their 5 to 15-minute videos. Introduce a desperate situation, document the intervention of good humans, then capture and celebrate the happy ending. I found this formula to be incredibly soothing. This is Eldad. Okay, he's the founder of Hope for Paws with Miley here. They found Miley barely alive on a trash heap and transformed her into a happy, healthy pup. Many of Eldad's rescues start with cheeseburgers to lure the pups. Here, he followed by climbing in a hole 18 feet underground to rescue 9 puppies. He closed with the puppies frolicking with their surrogate mother. So a few years back, I began donating just $10 a month to Hope for Paws in California, and presto, from my couch in Annapolis, I feel like I'm making a difference in these pups' lives. Cut to our own backyard. Around the same time I began donating to Hope for Paws, I was looking for an activity to do with the oldest of my 3 stepdaughters. Enter the SPCA Parent and Teen Program. Here's the SPCA's spin on the formula. They take in animals from desperate situations all over the world, from Kosovo to California to local surrenders of all kinds. Add good humans as fosters, volunteers, staff, and donors, and in 2018, they reported a total of 1,685 happy endings. Just a few of their amazing humans include Tina Wolford, the rescue coordinator, also retired DOD. Boyd Ingram is a volunteer mentor, trainer, and coach, and also an airplane mechanic for UPS. The Crawford family, mom Tricia and daughter Maggie lead the parent and teen volunteers, and son Nick is on staff. This is staff member Shane Carroll, loving on Rex, who finally went home this week after more than 530 days at this nonprofit no-kill shelter. That's 530 days of belly rubs, snuggles, and walks in the woods with an adoring staff and volunteers. So to those who say, I couldn't do it, it's just too sad, please believe me, the reward so outweighs the heartbreak. You get to walk these gorgeous creatures in a beautiful waterfront nature trail. One of my favorite rewards is access to the volunteer Facebook page, where each week we see reports of the many adoptions and pup date reports of alumni from the shelter, happy in their forever homes. Now, even if you can't volunteer, foster, or adopt, you can attach the SPCA to your Amazon account, leverage social media to raise awareness, or you can just look for the SPCA banks at the checkout lines around town. Fun fact, those little banks raised $18,000 in 2018. In the words of Desmond Tutu, do those little bits of good where you are. It is those little bits of good put all together that overwhelm the world. Okay, so for me it's dog rescue. But if animals aren't your thing, I assure you, the formula stands true for so many incredible organizations. Step away from the internet and look for the helpers. Contribute to their good work, and you too will have your faith in humanity restored. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Scott Mcmullen, and this is my community story. On a warm August day in 2017, I was campaigning and door knocking with my friend Scott Poyer, who's up there somewhere. Hi, Scott. I was an optimistic 36-year-old millennial campaigning for county council, and I wanted to make a difference in my hometown. My campaign was about bringing community together at a local level, and I wanted to bring all different kinds of people together to make a difference by acting as if tomorrow matters. I was aware of the national rhetoric that was going on, but that wasn't why I was running for office. I was running to make a difference in my hometown. While campaigning that August day, Scott and I came upon a man on the street who stopped us and told us that there was no soliciting allowed in the neighborhood. Scott told the man that we weren't soliciting, we were campaigning and exercising our free speech rights. The man asked our political party, and we answered. The man got mad and began to follow us. He stood at an intersection, and we came around. This is my chicken scratch diagram here. And we came around and we walked around the circle, and when we were passing him, he spit on us right there. I got the worst sick feeling. Yes, that is my 12-year-old chicken scratch handwriting. I got the worst sick feeling in my stomach from being spit on, but alas, the very next door we knocked on, an Oklahoma lady named Jean gave me the most genuine, kind hug I've ever got after I introduced myself. I couldn't believe the conflict between two political parties on such a hyper-local level. The man had blind hatred for me. The woman named Jean was extremely happy to see me. I believe that we are all different, and we have to work together on a local level to better our communities. We need to be patient and do the little things. We need to smile, and we need to get outside the circles to ultimately build our social circles to ultimately build a stronger community. The contrast I saw during my campaign wasn't limited to just political affiliation. A woman singled me out during the presentation, asking me how it felt to be the only man in the room, and she spit in my ear. Another instance, a woman who was an endorsement committee informed me that she was not endorsing me because I was a man. A sitting judge berated me for supporting a black woman. I'm not sure if this angry mob mentality was something every candidate experienced, or if there's something new this year, or maybe I just deserve to be spit on. I feel like people are reacting angrily to the national rhetoric and forgetting about our community. This is my sweet mom right here. I literally owe her everything. But when it comes to politics, we are different. I went to Obama's second inauguration. She went and protested Obama one time. Again, I feel like some things we are reacting too much on the national rhetoric and forgetting about what matters most. Why do we need a tragedy in our community to come together? Why can't we be Annapolis strong without a horrible shooting? We all live here together, and I do think we are better together. The solution to this mob mentality, tribalism, or visceral conflict between local groups lies in keeping calm and being proactive, not reactive. So what are some things we can do rather than spitting, yelling, or ranting on a Facebook forum to bring our community together? Well, first, I think we should volunteer in our local community. You can help by mentoring a student, helping an elderly person, working on a community project. Contact your local volunteer organization and just get involved. Shop and buy local to make a difference in your community. You can support local businesses, support the local economy. By supporting local businesses, you can shape the character of our community for generations. Clean up your streets or local streams. You can volunteer with the Arundel Rivers Federation and other organizations to help clean up our local creeks. Put some time tidying up the streets that you use every day. Roll up your sleeves and get down and dirty. Donate to the less fortunate. Donate old items of clothing to local homeless shelters, food to animal shelters, any household item to local charity shops. It all helps. Realize that most of us are very lucky, and there are people that could use a little help. And this is a quote, this next quote here on the next slide, is what I think we should do and be proactive with the national rhetoric. In the space between stimulus, what happens, and how we respond lies our freedom to choose. It is a choice of acting or being acted upon. And I think we should take action by going out and volunteer, among other things. So the next time someone yells, touches, or spits on you for being you, take a deep breath. and realize that we are all different and we all have our perspectives and see the world together. Smile if you can. Take a grassroots approach to local matters instead of a national level down focus. And remember to be proactive. Again, take a deep breath. Remember that we are all different and this community belongs to all of us. Remember that how we respond to everything is what counts. Be calm, be proactive, be positive, and get to know your neighbors to bring them together. And finally, remember this. My call to action is to be like the nice Oklahoma lady at the beginning of the story on that warm August day when I was door knocking and campaigning. Be like Jean and choose to give someone a hug or a high five next time you meet someone. Choose to love thy neighbor, not to spit on them. A healthy, vibrant, and growing community depends on it. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Cush, and tonight I am talking about Be Your Own BFF, loving yourself and others, pimples and all. I'm a therapist, blogger, and podcaster here in Annapolis, and tonight I'm talking about self-compassion and why it's so important. I am an introvert and have struggled with anxiety for most of my life, so you can imagine how presenting here tonight has made me feel. So when I started my business years ago, my anxiety kicked into overdrive and my inner critical demons made me crazy with self-doubt. What might you say to someone who is struggling with the same thing? Here's what I was saying to myself. Who do you think you are? You don't know anything about business or marketing. You're probably going to fail. Pretty harsh, right? Fortunately, I had friends and colleagues who introduced me to the concept of self-compassion. I bought books, I listened to CDs, I watched videos, and I practiced. And you know what? It helped to reduce my anxiety and stress. But not only that, it made me more compassionate towards others who were struggling. I began to see how my clients' self-doubts, self-judgments, and harsh inner critical thoughts were feeding their anxious and depressed feelings. So now, I advocate for more self-compassion and less self-criticism because it can change our relationship with ourself and with others. So what is self-compassion? It's not self-esteem, which relies on competition and one-upmanship, creating feelings of disconnection from family, friends, coworkers, and teammates. Instead, self-compassion allows that we all have strengths, and your strengths don't diminish mine. For me to feel good about me, I don't have to feel badly about you. And self-compassion isn't about closing our eyes to our mistakes, our struggles, our frustrations. Instead, self-compassion recognizes that we're all imperfect. So even when we struggle with eating too much or drinking too much or yelling at our kids, we can recognize with compassion that we can do things differently. And it's not about self-pity, which leaves us feeling alone when we're struggling, making us feel isolated. Instead, self-compassion recognizes that we all struggle. And when we recognize and when we can realize that we're not alone in our suffering, it makes us feel less isolated. So why is it so hard? Because we often use criticism for motivation, but criticism activates our fight-flight response, which makes us even more distressed. But with self-compassion, we can learn to soothe our nervous system, allowing us to think more. Oops, wrong one. But our brains can't tell the difference between yelling at ourselves and being in actual danger. With self-compassion, we can learn to soothe our nervous system, making it easier to think clearly, problem solve more effectively, and focus our attention on what's next. So let's practice being our own BFFs. Let's embrace our common humanity and imperfections. For a moment, close your eyes, place your hands on your heart, and think of something that you've struggled with. Now say to yourself, that was a moment of suffering. Everyone struggles from time to time. May I be kind and accept myself as I am. I've healed, and I've seen my clients heal through the practice of self-compassion. I know that we can create stronger bonds with ourselves and others if we open our hearts.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Suggs. I recently moved my wife, hi Jazz, and my daughter from Charlotte, North Carolina to Maryland. So it's a pleasure to have a chance to meet some new people and make some new friends right here in Annapolis. Tonight, I want to talk with you about crucial conversations. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I had limited access to my father during my formative years because he was dealing with drug abuse and prison. I missed out on the crucial conversations that every young boy needs, like perfecting the technique on my jump shot, and it was nice, okay, sometimes, to straight up learning how to be a man. But thankfully, I was lucky in community. I had my mother, my grandmother, my Uncle Ron, and our church, and I had the Black Man's Country Club, my local barber shop, and my barber, Alex. Rest in peace, big brother. The barbershop is a unique social space. There's only one other person besides God and your significant other who knows your inner secrets, your barber. In the barbershop, we confide in each other because we trust each other. The barbershop shaped my views on politics, religion, sports, and culture. From my barbershop community, I get encouragement and mentorship. And to be blunt, I was able to have crucial conversations. I was blessed to receive a basketball scholarship to Claflin University, graduated and had success as a salesperson for a major sports franchise and a Fortune 100 company. But the power of the barbershop stayed with me, and I still go twice a month to get haircuts and give advice and take advice. In 2017, I quit my job and I launched a startup. My startup empowers barbers to give blood pressure screenings in communities where healthcare access and utilization are lacking. But don't take my word for it. Let's look at the data. The New England Journal of Medicine says that social, environmental, and behavioral factors determine 60% of overall health. That's right, 60%. More than 40% of African American men have high blood pressure, and as a result, heart disease and stroke are the leading cause of death for African American men. So, the American Journal of Public Health says that there is a 4.4-year life expectancy gap between African American men and the rest of the population. Additionally, Stanford University study recently said that distrust of the medical system historically has counted for 35% of the life expectancy gap. I have a mission to close that life expectancy gap by leveraging the trusted social space of the barbershop to influence the social determinants of health. So how can we do that, you may ask? In practice, this is about barbers providing blood pressure screenings and having crucial conversations with their clients about health. That's right, barbers, and health. This past Christmas, I received a terrible call from my mother. She said that my dad was rushed to the hospital and needed multiple heart surgeries. He now has a medication pipeline that keeps him alive. He's 55 years old, struggling from congestive heart failure, and not nearly as mobile as he would like. Today, our conversations sound like this. Pops, what did you eat today? And did you remember to take your medicine? There are many men, African American men in particular, who have similar stories as my dad, who are struggling with chronic health conditions because they don't go to the doctor and neglect their health. But these same men will go to the barbershop every 2 weeks, completely expecting to have an open conversation with their barber. So why not have a crucial conversation about health? At a macro level, I want the Ignite audience to recognize that healthcare access is a serious problem, and if we want to sway some of the social determinants of health, we have to consider alternative methods of healthcare delivery. But from a personal level, I implore each of you to have a crucial conversation with a friend, family member, or colleague about their health. Don't wait, a life may depend on it. Have a good evening, have a prosperous 2019, go have those crucial conversations, and happy birthday to my 2-year-old daughter, Soraya. I love you.
Good evening. The love in me greets the love in you. Being broke is no joke. What do you tell somebody that says, if someone tried to rob me, they would just be practicing? What do you tell someone that says, I have to rob Paul to pay Peter? Other than call the police, what do you say to them? Being broke is no joke. Being broke is no joke. Contemplating, perpetrating, and selling coke. Those were lyrics from a 1980 song that spoke about being broke ain't no joke. Today I say being broke is no joke. Contemplating, perpetrating, and losing hope. The solution to that is to get wealth. The good news about being broke is that broke can be fixed. Money is the problem solver. So again, broke can be fixed. All we need is more money, right? So how do we do that? I can go through and tell you about all the different money traps to escape, but we all know many of these money traps. I have a list of over 100 money traps. One of them is wearing your wealth. Wearing your wealth, as you see this young lady wearing her wealth. Sometimes you have to invest in yourself and not wear your wealth. That's one of the money traps that we have to try to escape. We have to have vision, have goals, have purpose, set some goals. That's a vision board. So what do you want out of life? You have to have goals that make you want to soar, that make you want to move fast. So those are some other ways to avoid the money traps in life. Being a side buster versus being a sod buster. One of my favorite television shows is The Rifleman. It's a very old show, and oftentimes they'll call each other, hey, side buster, hey, sod buster. A sod buster is a farmer. So I ask you today, what are you cultivating? Farmers cultivate, harvest, and grow things. A side buster is just a busybody. So we have to get out of being a busybody and start side busting. Another way to avoid the traps is to give your dollars daily directions. So when you just throw your money up and you don't tell your money where to go, that's a huge trap in life. So give your dollars daily directions. Another way to avoid those traps is to sometimes you have to live off the land. If you're somebody that shops all the time, we have a little saying called living off the land means that you're eating whatever is in the house. Maybe for a week, there's no grocery shopping. You're, for a season, you're wearing what's in your closet. You're living off the land. And when you're living off the land, there's no market to go to except if you want to visit the public library. So another way to avoid some of those traps is that you got to upgrade your huddle. This is Herb, the late Herb Kelleher, and myself, the co-founder of Southwest. We all could do something great if we just upgrade our huddle, get to know other people. He is now gone, but his life lives off in books. So books are something that's available to all of us. We have to seek knowledge no matter what your age is, that we have books available. So again, that's a way to escape the traps of life. Seek knowledge, and just always remember to plan, plant, and prosper in all that you do. And also help others to plan, plant, and prosper. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrea Chamblee, and this is my new identity as the widow of John McNamara of the Annapolis Capitol. I left off when I wrote in the Washington Post about the hours it took for anyone to give the names of the dead at the Capitol to the crisis response team, and my lost sleep, and my lost weight, and my lost sense of safety. Since then, I learned how the children struggled. My little nieces were up late waiting for the news, and it's the first night they can stay up late enough to see fireflies. Their mom has to explain who allows the party lights on the same night that their Uncle John is senselessly taken. Why are they so pretty tonight? Where can we sleep that's safe from a shooting? And I don't have a good answer. John's godson is 2 years old. His swing needs a push, and he looks me in the face and asks, "Uncle John?" I told him Uncle John was in the moon. So how do I keep going now? I started writing an absurdity of the day when MetLife saw his death certificate and said they wouldn't pay his life insurance claim because he was shot. They told me, "You're his partner." They told me, "You probably did it." So I went to see the memorials on Bestgate Road. I put his favorite Marilyn Terrapin's hat on his cross. I wrote the lyrics to the Beatles' "I Will" song on his hat. I don't know where his hat ended up. I don't know where the clothes he was wearing ended up. They're evidence, but his shoes had been slipped under his desk, and I could have those, and the books that had been on top of his desk. I donated his summer shirts to a charity that dresses men for job interviews. They might as well have the summer shirts in July. And I donated his winter coats in early December for the same reason. I did keep that black jacket, though, for now. On the day I was supposed to return from our summer vacation, I got ready for work, and I struggled with every decision, like whether to cover my pasty legs with spray tan or hose, and I decided neither. I wore a dress that was too big. I wear his press pass under my shirt and his wedding ring on my right hand. My colleagues ask me how I can go to work, and I ask them how I can go home. I visit the National Expert Grief Counselor for Mass Shootings. I go for 5 months until the insurance runs out and the traffic to the office in Northern Virginia frazzles my nerves. The counselor tells me to do whatever it takes to make sure I don't come home to a dark, silent house, So I ask Alexa to play a romantic love song. The song that comes on is My Life, the Beatles song that we played at his memorial. I use a lot of sick leave. I show up at events like this. I finished his book on basketball. I speak. I listen. I stand silently as a witness to other people's pain. I wake up at 3:30 in the morning screaming, or at least I think I'm screaming. John's not there to tell me whether I'm screaming out loud or not. He's not there to hug me while I shake. On my days off, I change my credit cards. Verizon won't let me put my name on the bill. If I disable his phone, I'll lose the texts and pictures while his lawyers and the police have the phone. I have to change my passwords when my accounts are hacked by people who are angry at my speeches supporting background checks. So now what? I still look for his car in the driveway. I still do a double take when there's just one plate of food for dinner or one load of laundry for one. I still reach out for him at night, expecting that he's emerged on his pillow. I write a lot. My writing teacher wants to know what my season is. What's the season where everything is dying and still forcing its way out? It's anguished and ugly and unfinished, like the new me. So I don't know where I'm going, but I do know I can't stand still. We're not waiting for what we know what to do. We know what to do. We're not waiting for a tragedy. We've had tragedies worse than we can ever imagine. I hope you won't stand still. Come with us. We know what we need to do. We need background checks for everyone. We need red flag laws. We need to reinstate the ban on bump stocks and high-capacity magazines and military-style weapons. So next will be the list of the 31 Maryland children shot since Valentine's Day at Parkland. So for them, don't stand still. The Gun Sense Action Network has a lot of volunteer activities. You can go to vote.org. You can find your elected representatives and call them, and support the law at Congress to close the gun show loophole. Thank you.
Let's take a break.
Look, here's the thing. Video is exciting. It's engaging and informative. It's easy to use, and it's great to share. My business uses video for marketing and training. It helps build my brand and tell my story, or tell your story.
Video content works for us, and it's an awesome way to deliver vivid content consumers are sure to remember. And they're watching. Make sure that they're watching you.
So what's your story?
I've got a good one. Let us tell your story at twoproducerstudios.com.
How was snack time? Was it every bit as good as you remembered? Welcome again to Ignite Annapolis number 4. I am Rob Tim from 103.1 WRNR. What do you think so far? Pretty amazing. Thank you all again for being here. We also need to thank the sponsors who helped to make this evening possible. Our luminary sponsors, McKenzie Commercial Real Estate Services and What's Up Media. The Inferno sponsors, Tebow Media Group, Saucy Salamander Catering Company, Data Canopy, Scarborough Capital Management, Ion Annapolis, and Full Sail Media. And thanks to the Flame and Media sponsors featured in the slideshow and in your program, including WRNR. Also, thanks again to this evening's musical guest, Carlin Tim. And most importantly, to whoever left a rubber chicken on the podium. You also serve who only sit on the podium. We did have one speaker who was not able to make it this evening. Jane Beard, unfortunately, was not able to be here, but we still have 7 more fabulous people for you, starting with, please welcome, Mark Diezik.
Hi, my name's Mark Diezik, which seems a little redundant. I didn't realize he was going to give my name, but that's what I rehearsed, so I'm going to go with it. I am one of the founding members of the Friends Foundation, and the Friends Foundation is a charity that was formed 20 plus years ago by a group of young people who wanted to honor the memory of a couple of friends that we lost in a car accident. When the car accident happened, we immediately knew that we wanted to do something to honor their memory, but what to do and how to go about it was not as nearly as clear. Over the course of several months, we had many conversations about it, and we settled on 2 guiding principles that have basically guided the Friends Foundation to this day. The first was we wanted to get young people involved. At that point, we had a view of charitable events as things that were done. They were usually pretty formal, maybe a little dry, and participated by a generation that was older than us. And we wanted to change that. We wanted to get young people involved. And 2, we wanted to make sure it was fun. We figured if it was fun, other people would come and join us, and we would be successful. Those guiding principles helped us get started, but they didn't provide the guidance for us to actually start raising money so that we could help our community. That took several more conversations that were not necessarily all that fruitful. Until we decided that we would like to talk to maybe some established organizations and see if they could provide us with some guidance on how to go forward with what we wanted to do. We brought in a couple of organizations that we talked to, and I can tell you that the first 2 that we talked to, I can summarize what they told us pretty succinctly in, sounds like a great idea, good luck, which wasn't all that helpful, though it was nice. But didn't really get us any further towards our goal. But then we talked to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and that's where we actually started to make some progress. The Cystic Fibrosis Foundation at that time was looking to launch a walk in the Annapolis area, and when they talked to us, they immediately offered us the opportunity to be the title sponsor of that event. We didn't really have any idea why they offered to do that for us, or why they had any confidence that we could help them at all, but we immediately grabbed the opportunity before they could take it back. So we partnered with them, and they really only tasked us with one thing, which was to get the word out there about the event. They wanted us to bring energy. They wanted us to invite our friends and basically find participants that would take care of that would participate in the event. While they essentially took care of all of the organizational aspects of the event. They found the site, they reserved it, they provided a tool for registration, had all the payment processing set up, that kind of thing. Together, when we held that event, it ended up raising over $10,000, which from our perspective was way more than we ever thought we'd ever be able to raise with one single event. And that the success of that event buoyed us and allowed us to have the confidence to start doing our own events, as well as having learned from cystic fibrosis exactly what goes into putting on an event. This allowed us to start having events of our own. And we had, over the years, we've had many different events. Those events have included holiday parties, which, when we first started, were things that we were doing already. We were already gathering for holiday parties with our groups of friends. So we just added elements that would allow you to raise money, things like doing a silent auction or a live auction, that kind of thing. So since we were going to do it anyway, we just kept doing it and raising money. We also did things like golf tournaments. We all loved to play golf. None of us were any good, but it turns out that it doesn't really matter. You don't have to be good at golf in order to raise money. So those were relatively successful as well. We did tailgates over here at the Navy Stadium. They have tents there you can rent out if you didn't know. And we just basically went there and had the typical tailgate, which involved food, perhaps a little bit of drink. And we sold things like T-shirts and stuff like that, and were able to raise money that way. We did other things. We had crab feasts. This is Annapolis, and so we might as well have crab feasts, and everybody loves crabs. We did happy hours. We also did wine tastings, which really just generally involved giving all of our friends a bunch of wine and then asking for money, which actually proved pretty successful. These events over the years allowed us to make hundreds of donations to various charities numerous times over the years. Some of our largest donations have included, we made a donation of $277,000 to the National Brain Tumor Society, whom we partnered with on our 2015 holiday party. We made a donation of $100,000 to the Analytical Medical Center Outreach Center, which was actually a donation we did over a period of 10 years. And I think we paid it off about 4 or 5 years ago. We made a donation of about $25,000 to the Annapolis Boys and Girls Club, which is actually nearby here. Apparently they have some fans here. You may not like the next part. So it was to sponsor their basketball court. So they put our logo on the court, which I always thought was pretty cool. A few years later, they actually came back to us and asked us to sponsor the refinishing of that same court. Unfortunately, the refinishing erased our logo from the court. And instead, what they did is they put up a sign on the wall that says floor refinishing provided by the Friends Foundation, which I think makes it sound like a floor refinishing company, which isn't really that accurate, but it went to a good cause, so it all worked out in the end, I suppose. But it's not always the largest donations or it's not the amount of the donation that measures the impact of the donation. I can tell you the story of in the first few years that we were operating, we were approached by a woman who had been given a relatively dire diagnosis for a health issue she had at the time. And what she wanted to do was raise some money to pay for a procedure which at that time was considered experimental and therefore wasn't paid for by insurance. And we gave her $1,000, and through our donation and others that she raised, she was able to raise the money that she needed to have the procedure. And luckily, the procedure was successful. And she has actually been a supporter of ours ever since and given back to us well more than we ever gave to her. It's just been a tremendous experience both ways, and she's one of our supporters to this day. It's things like that that bring me here today to make the offer that we would like to make to this audience and the people at large. We would like to do for somebody out there what cystic fibrosis once did for us. We would like to see if there's somebody out there that has a cause that they're passionate about. And maybe they've always wanted to do something for that cause, but never have known how to get started, didn't know what to do. Maybe they didn't think they could raise the money because they didn't have the 501c3 designation, or for whatever reason. If you have that cause and that passion, we'd like to talk to you. We'd like to see if we can partner with you. If you can bring the drive, the passion, and the energy, we'll provide the rest. We'll provide the infrastructure for the event. We'll help you reserve the facility. We'll help you do the payment processing. We'll do all of those things. And if we do those things, perhaps we'll be able to, together, raise some money for a good cause and maybe have some fun while we're doing it. So if you're interested in this, we'd like you to visit us at our Friends Foundation website, www.friendsfoundation.com. You can apply there if you're interested, and we will hopefully raise some money together and have fun while doing it. Thank you for your time.
Hello, Annapolis. My name is Joel Dunn, and I'm going to be talking to you tonight about big data and how these massive and highly complex data sets are key to restoring the Chesapeake Bay. I was drawn to the magic of the Chesapeake Bay 15 years ago when I moved here, and my story really went storybook when I met my wife walking our dogs down at Acton Landing Park. We now have 2 beautiful daughters, and I run the Chesapeake Conservancy in West Annapolis. The Chesapeake runs from Cooperstown, New York to Virginia Beach. We have 18 million people living in this watershed, 100,000 streams and rivers, and it's the largest land-to-water ratio of any estuary in the world, meaning that what happens on the land affects the health of the Chesapeake. You'll agree it's a national treasure. Its sheer beauty of the Chesapeake is inarguable. As grand as the Grand Canyon, as wonderful as Yellowstone or Yosemite, as deserving of any of national park status. But we've got some serious problems in the Chesapeake Bay. Too much pollution in the form of nutrient and sediment entering our rivers and streams, leading to algae growth, which harms our fish, crabs, and oysters, and in some instances, humans. For the last 50 years, we have been involved in the largest, longest-running ecosystem restoration project in the world. We've invested billions, and the world is watching. That's Governor Harry Hughes there in the middle, who passed away last night. We're seeing signs of progress, though. Since in 2017, our underwater grasses recorded record growth. Our female blue crab population met our goals. Pollution was reduced. We had a minor setback last year with some rain and the impacts of that, but we're seeing progress. One of the key indicators, though, dissolved oxygen, which limits the bay's ability to support aquatic life, indicates we still have problems. We still have huge dead zones in the Chesapeake Bay. Our focus for the last 50 years has been primarily upgrading sewage treatment plants to tremendous results. But the focus of the next 50 years will be much more widespread. Individual farmers, neighborhoods, cleaning up individual streams. You see, agriculture, cities, septic systems make up 2/3 of the nitrogen pollution entering the bay. We've got to eat, right? And we need a place to live, but we also need to restore the bay. I think technology is absolutely essential for restoring that balance. So in 1965, Bob Dylan took music from acoustic to electric. He was booed, and people didn't understand what he's doing, but it was awesome. Music's never been the same. We're doing the same for conservation now. It's a brave new world. Information is power. Think about how big data has affected the banking sector or the healthcare industry. We're doing the same for the environment now. We call it precision conservation. This is a map of land cover data in downtown DC. It's not exactly Google Earth, right? This is data converted to computer code so modelers and governments can understand what's happening on the landscape. Until recently, this was the best data available for this mapping. We made things unfuzzy. We produced new data that's 900 times better. We can pick out individual trees. We trained the computer to know what's happening on the ground. This big data has huge ramifications for the effort to restore the Chesapeake Bay. Here's a night and day difference of the old data versus the new data for Eastport. Local officials now can manage tree canopy and Forest Conservation Act. They can leverage impervious surface and see how it's affecting urban stormwater pollution. We can help agricultural areas too. You see, the buffers on farmland are key to affecting or reducing the pollution to the Chesapeake Bay. This data will help us identify exactly where to plant the trees to slow the flow of pollution to the bay. But that's not all. We're working on identifying new data for stream mapping. You see, the old stream maps, we didn't even know where the headwater streams were, but now we do, to the centimeter. And think of them as the veins of the Chesapeake Bay. And if you think of like an MRI and how we can use an MRI to see what's happening inside our bodies and diagnose problems, this data can be used as an MRI for the Chesapeake landscape and pinpoint exactly where we have problems. In this instance, we can tell a farmer exactly where to plant a tree, where he can have the biggest impact on pollution at the lowest cost. That's precision conservation, bringing the right practices to the right place at exactly the right time, providing everybody with the data they need where it matters most, democratizing the knowledge for the conservation movement so we can help the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, the Anne Arundel County, the individual farmer. You know, my hero, E.O. Wilson, tells us that we really need to protect 50% of the planet in order to preserve biodiversity. I think we can do that with the aid of technology and partnerships. We're at 22% now in the Chesapeake. We can get to 30% by 2030 or 50% by 2050. Just imagine the legacy we'll leave for future generations by leveraging this technology for conservation. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gene Deems, and I'm a philanthropist. When you hear the word philanthropist, most people think of Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett. They're rich, right? But do you truly know the meaning of the word philanthropist? A philanthropist is one who makes an active effort to promote human welfare. A person who practices philanthropy. Basically, it means being passionate about improving others' lives and making the world a better place. So takeaway number one is you don't have to be rich to be a philanthropist. I used to make donations to nonprofits without thinking about where the money went, how it was being used, and I never saw the results. But just like Twitter changed the way we do things, I changed the way I do my philanthropy. The photos you see are just a few of the thousands that I've taken since 2009. I was amazed at the number of events I attended and the people I worked with and how I participated in, volunteered, and just attended. I've made some incredible friends and been part of some really meaningful efforts, and it never would have happened had I not been actively involved in philanthropy. I've made some incredible... Takeaway number two is, with friends, you can do the impossible. In 2015, I was honored to be co-chair for The Great Give with Veronica Tovey of What's Up Media. Over 170 Anne Arundel County nonprofits participated, and we raised over $915,000 in 24 hours in an online event. So takeaway number three is, what is your passion? In 2014, I was talking with a friend, and the name Medicine with a Mission came up. I Googled it and found 150,000 references to the domain name, and no one owned it. Over 2 years, Marylanders in this room collected, some of them in this room, collected hundreds of toothbrushes and tubes of toothpaste and other supplies to send to the students at St. George's University in Grenada. And then in 2016, Medicine with a Mission was founded by Josh Carlson, Margot Cook, and me. Over the next 2 years, the students at St. George's University raised $10,000. We raised $10,000, and together we took the $20,000 and partnered with Project Cure. And then in April of last year, at the press conference that was given at Grenada, they announced that that was the largest philanthropic donation ever given to the Ministry of Health. In 2019, I'm active with some really great nonprofits: Hospice of the Chesapeake, Ed Block, Medicine with a Mission, Blue Ribbon, and anywhere else that I can be making a difference. Takeaway number 5 is philanthropy isn't just about my passions. It's about attending, helping, and supporting those passions of and efforts of your friends. The Super Bowl fundraiser benefiting the Lighthouse Shelter has been organized by Lee Hurt for the past 13 years, and it's amazing. First Lady Yumi Hogan created an incredible nonprofit called Yumi Cares. She used her passion for art and her compassion for ill children to provide a youth art therapy program for the University of Maryland's Children's Hospital. Tim Tebow's Night to Shine happened last month. Hundreds of people turned out to help 130 people with special needs have a prom-like event. It turned out to be an amazing event. So where do you start to be a philanthropist? In Anne Arundel County alone, there are 863 registered nonprofits. I'll tell you where. Takeaway number 6 is visit the Community Foundation of Anne Arundel County's website, cfaac.org. You can also find nonprofits by looking at retail business partnerships that are raising funds for nonprofits. Takeaway number 7 is, in this fast-paced world, slow down and notice the treasures and opportunities around you. So who is Gene Deems? Who am I? Philanthropists love people and want to make the world a better place. We do it with the 3 T's: our time, our talents, and our treasure. Your treasure doesn't have to be money. It can be a smile, a hug, or even just calling the person serving you by their name. I'm just a pebble in this universe making a ripple. A few pebbles make several ripples. But can you imagine the enormous waves of caring love and positive change that would occur if each person in this room was a pebble? Come see me after the event, because I brought a pebble for everybody here. It's my gift to you to be a daily reminder that you have the power to be a philanthropist in what you do. It's all about love. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Vanessa Bright, and I will be speaking on the topic, Stop the Revolving Door to Prison. Imagine if you had paid your debt to society, you come home, you have no job, you have no money, and you have no place to live. What would you do? What would you do to survive? Would you commit a crime? In 2018, 500 inmates returned to Anne Arundel County to the communities to which they lived. Every one of those individuals will impact their community either positively or negatively. Former inmates are often confronted with one reentry challenge after another, everything from securing housing to setting up substance abuse treatment to finding a job. Any setback in any of these could lead to a relapse and a return to prison, what analysts call recidivism. Currently in Anne Arundel County, the recidivism rate is 41%. In 2017, Maryland implemented the Justice Reinvestment Act, and that did put Maryland on a path to a fairer criminal justice system by changing the sentencing guidelines and strict drug policies that led to the mass incarceration, particularly of people of color. Interestingly enough, in 2019, when we have the heroin and fentanyl epidemic, it's being treated differently. There's a call for treatment instead of incarceration. As an educator in the criminal justice system, I teach personal finance and financial literacy. I went in with a lot of preconceived notions. I thought that people got an education, I felt they received training, and they were really rehabilitated. But what I learned is that prison is a very closed system, and we don't know what we don't see. So it was not until I was in there that I learned that we are not preparing people for return to their communities. 95% of the people that are incarcerated will return home. So what we do to them, the trauma that's inflicted upon them from overzealous officers or other inmates, and what we don't do for them by not training them will come back to their communities. For a moment, I want to take you into the life of a returning citizen. You return home with no savings because you made less than minimum wage. There was no opportunity to mend broken relationships, so now you're living in a homeless shelter. You were failed by the school system. You had so you went in with limited skills, limited education, and you come home the same way. You must apply for a job online, but you were not allowed to use the internet in prison, and you lack computer skills. You don't have a phone on which a potential employer could call you. So you somehow get offered a job, but you live in Anne Arundel County, and we know the public transportation system is very limited, so how are you going to get to work on time? My experience teaching inmates over the last 5 years allowed me to see and to hear and understand that they are just ill-equipped. Preparation for reentry should begin the day after they are incarcerated. But yet, if we do provide it, we wait till they're almost about to be released to help prepare them to come home. Unfortunately, it could take years to make the legislative changes that are needed to overhaul this system and make it an equitable system. But President Obama said something. He said, change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. So I am going to open a nonprofit called Maryland Reentry Resource Center. It's going to be located in Anne Arundel County. The center is going to be devoted to empowering inmates and the formerly incarcerated with the skills they need to be thriving citizens. We're going to do this through case management, mentorship, job placement, and training. But we need your help. We need people that are willing to be mentors to take people into new social networks. We need people that will give of their time and provide a workshop or training. We also need employers that are going to be willing to give somebody a second chance. It is then that we will have success stories like Chris Wilson, who lives in Baltimore. You may have heard of him recently because he's written a book called The Master Plan. He's also a serial entrepreneur and a very successful artist. Nicole Hanston, she runs an organization called Out for Justice, which is an advocate for criminal justice reform. Or you may know Celebrity Jeff, who used to cook cocaine and now cooks 5-star cuisine. In closing, I'm reminded of a story told by somebody you probably all know. He's from Annapolis, and in Annapolis, he's called the convener. His name is Carl Snowden. Recently, I heard him tell a story about Michael Jordan, and the story goes like this. He said once Michael Jordan was interviewed, and the interviewer asked him if he thought he was the greatest basketball player of all times. And to the interviewer's surprise, Michael Jordan, who's not very modest, said that he was not. His reason for saying that was that Michael said he knew other people that could outplay him in basketball, people in his own neighborhood. But what he had that they didn't have was an opportunity. So I want to leave you with this. Remember, we all need an opportunity for greatness. Some of us need a second chance at it. Thank you.
There's some tall people up here tonight. Well, it is such a pleasure to be here and see you all. Thanks for coming out. I'm going to talk a little bit about a passion of mine that I've had for many, many years. It's the Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race. So let's go sailing. Into everyone's life come individuals who inspire, drive, and help you along your way. These people can be relatives, notables in their fields, co-workers, or people who cross your path seemingly randomly. Over the years, I've pursued a career in sailing that has taken me around the world. I was inspired by my uncle, Art Burney, his son Lex, and my mother Bitsy, who installed in me a sense of fun, adventure, and kindness. As a child, I was drawn to the sea and the distant horizon. I wanted to know what lay over that horizon, what people I'd meet, and what adventures might lie waiting. I was drawn to schooners. Now, schooners are an older style of sailing vessel which have played a large part in the history of our country as privateers, blockade runners, and engines of financial expansion. Today, few schooners survive. However, there's a special group of people drawn to the majesty of a ship under full sail, the pull of the helm, and a fine breeze scudding you along. When you're sailing schooners, there's an element of beauty and an equal element of impending doom. These boats can be cantankerous, and breakdowns are always an unwelcome possibility. Captains and crew need to be resourceful to keep their boats underway. A dream. In 1988, Pride of Baltimore II was launched as a goodwill ambassador for the state of Maryland. Pride II sails the world, providing young crew members experiences and challenges that have shaped the rest of their lives. Another dream. Captain Lane Briggs, a tugboat captain from Norfolk, realized that the history of our Chesapeake Bay waters was being forgotten, and he set about to change that. Lane had converted his small personal tugboat, Norfolk Rebel, into a schooner by adding 2 masts to a boat that was never meant to be sailed. A late-night barroom challenge to the captain of Pride II created our race 30 years ago. Since 1990, I've sailed an arts boat, Adventurer. Over the years, we've raced in all sorts of weather with close to 50 different crew members, and each time it's been a challenge and great fun. Now in Baltimore, a day or so before the race, schooners offer tours and educational programming. The evening before the race is the Parade of Sail, a great excuse to strut your stuff and blow off some cannons. The race is 127 miles, straight down the bay in a no-holds-barred competition. This is a handicap race, meaning the boats are rated against each other with a time system meant to even everyone's chance for glory. 127 miles at 6 to 9 knots means an overnight sail, dodging ships, weather fronts, and the problematic crossing of the Potomac River, the great divider between Maryland and Virginia. Now, at the start of the race, we jockey for position along with up to 35 other boats waiting for the starting cannon. Jockeying all that tonnage is a bit like trying to make elephants dance. As dawn breaks, the schooners stretch their legs for the finish line, awards party, and significant others. After a day of rest and repairs, the boats are opened up to school kids and the public, closely followed by festivities. The race and the love that keeps all these vessels afloat is a testament to the vision, imagination, and focus of people who want to keep a beautiful and significant part of America's past alive. Our race was founded to promote public awareness of the Chesapeake Bay's maritime heritage and encourage the preservation and improvement of the Chesapeake natural resources. Net funds are donated to local organizations who share our goals, and to date, that's over $200,000. As I close, I'd like to challenge you to think about who has inspired you, who has influenced your life, who can you inspire? The pursuit of dreams has real and positive consequences, and these consequences can and do make our world a fuller and better place. Giving people real experiences can change their lives. In my life, I've been given amazing opportunities, and I try to give back as best as I've been given too. I'll finish with a quote from Van Gogh. "Dream no small dreams, for they have no power to move our hearts." Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I have great news. My name is Jonathan Ross, and I'm here to tell you that You don't have to love exercise, you just have to get a crush on it. Time flies when you're having fun, and that's why your workouts seem to drag on, take too much of your time, and why you struggle to stay consistent. But guess what? You don't really hate exercise. There are no fish that hate swimming in water. In fact, they crave it and thrive on it. And if something provides vitality and is essential, yet we dislike it, it means we've learned to. You don't really hate exercise, you've just learned to hate working out. If I say workout, that's what pops into your head. That isn't fun, and you won't enjoy it, and most likely won't stick with it. I've worked in fitness 20 years, and most of that turns me off. So what if fitness could look and feel like this? Exhilaration and exhaustion at the same time. Sweat you can wipe off your face, but a smile that you can't. Intense enough to change your body, yet fun enough to change your mind. It's a concept I call funtensity. The problem with fitness now is that it's like a shoe store selling the best, highest quality shoes, but only in size 7. We keep telling you how great our shoes are. You keep telling us how they don't fit you, and we don't listen and are shocked when you stop wearing them. But why does any of this matter? This matters because the overweight and obesity numbers continue to get worse, and the percentage of the population over age 65 gets larger. These are the people who don't have size 7 feet. They need something different. This matters because it stinks when your world shrinks. I grew up with 800 pounds of parents, and my father died at 424 pounds. Yet he stopped living long before he died. His lifestyle limited his ability to fully participate in his own life. My mother, now nearly 70, lost 170 pounds, got her life back, and is an example of how no matter where you start from, your body never stops changing based on the actions you take today. But change is hard, or is it? Having children is the most difficult, inconvenient change you can make in your life. Yet, many people have more than one, and on purpose. Sometimes by accident, but mostly it's on purpose. So why do people struggle? You gotta love it to work hard enough to get it. Anytime the benefits emotionally of a challenge outweigh the discomfort, we gladly choose the discomfort to get those benefits. This means it's essential for you to discover the emotional relevance of exercise for you. We like to think we're rational people, but we aren't. So discovering your personal fitness mission statement of why it matters and why you'll make the effort will give you endless motivation. You can't change your body in a single workout anyway. If you make today's workout, you won't wake up a cover model tomorrow. Skip today's workout, you won't wake up obese in the morning. But a single workout can change your attitude about exercise. What if you got a little crush on it? Brain science is hot. We all want to feel better now, make better decisions, and build a healthy brain that lasts. So here's how to turn your brain on to exercise. Now, I must warn you, the following images show real people having a potentially disturbing amount of fun while exercising. The right type of exercise prevents brain disease. It produces more of the proteins that help prevent Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, which is caused by inflammation and DNA damage. So what does the right type of exercise look and feel like? It's time to bring out the Funtensity Rubber Chicken. A reminder to pursue serious fitness, but not take ourselves too seriously. And it's going to help us illustrate the 4 characteristics of exercise for brain health. First is reactivity. I didn't have to tell you to catch the chicken, you just reacted to it. It's automatic. And you don't get a face like that on a treadmill. Next is coordination. You're not uncoordinated, it's just a new movement for you. Coordination is simply individual muscle actions grouped together to produce a smooth, efficient movement. And coordination automatically engages your mind. Next is interactivity. This is an interaction with the live human being in the real world. I know that's a little hard to grasp. It's like a video chat with an online friend, but in real life. Next is friendly competition. Some of us like to compete against others, while others of us enjoy competing with others. Either way, competition makes you work harder automatically, which means nobody has to push you to, and it doesn't seem as hard when you do. Use these concepts to elevate the emotional experience of exercise for you. Feel better now, build a brain that lasts, and you will enjoy unfakeable smiles, unshakable brains, and unforgettable fitness. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm Alex Klein. I'm going to take us out tonight, talk about zoning. But before you all say, ugh, get up and leave and go home early, it's not what you think. I'm going to talk about the unintended consequences and what we can do about it. Okay, let's roll. This is Annapolis in the 1880s. It's amazing. This was created with no zoning code, but today it would be illegal to build. Initially, zoning was used to prevent something like a copper smelting plant next to a residence. But fast forward to today, we have 1,700 pages of code, which often yield counterintuitive results that just don't seem quite right. It's not the way it is, it's the result of the rules we put in place over the last century. Here's some examples. Main Street has a human scale because it was built when people walked everywhere, and that's what's made it so enduring over the ages. We accommodate cars here, but they are not the dominant feature, despite the sometimes maniacal focus on parking downtown. Travel out of town on West Street and you'll find a typical modern zoning result. Separated uses far apart, fast traffic, and big ugly parking lots. It's ugly, unlovable, and oppressive for anyone outside of a car. This is known as a STROAD, a street road hybrid. It combines people, businesses, and residences with high-speed traffic. The result is dangerous and has devalued the area, but sadly, it's the default infrastructure in much of this country. Built before the intense zoning we have today, downtown is a pleasant, people-oriented place. It's not about the architecture or even the use, rather about how people interact with the buildings. When I'm here, I just want to sit, have a cup of coffee, and chill. But our zoning code often requires an auto-centric design that's a marvel of checklist engineering. Lots of parking, stormwater management, brick sidewalks, something for everybody. It's beautiful, right? But how often do you say, let's stroll down Upper West Street and have a taquito? Everyone loves Snowflake Alley. It's inviting and interesting and gets you where you want to go quickly and follows the observation made by the famous urbanist Jane Jacobs. Quote, most blocks must be short, that is, streets and opportunities to turn corners must be frequent. On the other hand, Parole Town Center's 900-foot block length is definitely not human scaled. It's well appointed from a planner checklist standpoint, but the blocks are long and boring when you're on foot. But it's considered smart growth, so it's got to be good, right? Annapolis has some terrific civic architecture, but more important is the building form and its location on the street. It makes it an interesting place to walk by. Fast forward to the 70s when Arundel Center was built. Its placement on the block hides it from people, and that wall is so despotic to anybody walking by. We probably should paint a mural of some of our favorite dictators on it. What kind of nonsense produces this? These are 3-story townhouses on Prince George Street, one of the most admired places in town. It's great walkable urbanism, but could we build this legally today, given our minimum parking requirements? These days, we zone townhouses that are really just houses without the town in car-dependent areas because no one complains about it there. But then we wonder why everybody drives everywhere. I call it density without urbanism, and it's the worst of both worlds. Street layouts determine how easy it is to get around. Once cars gained mass popularity and Americans started using them as prosthetic devices, we changed the pattern because it was assumed everyone would drive everywhere, so connectivity wasn't important. Our older neighborhoods like Eastport, West Annapolis, and Murray Hill have traditional street grids that make walking and biking efficient and pleasant, and as an added benefit, they distribute car traffic and provide redundancy in the case of emergencies, like we have sometimes down on the neck. But now we create one-way in, one-way out cul-de-sac neighborhoods, which we think produce the idyllic American dream with no traffic on the street, but they greatly lengthen the distance people have to travel to get anywhere. The result is everyone has to use the same pavement, whether they are commuting to work or just getting a quart of milk. If you put this together with lack of connections, you end up funneling walkers, cyclists, and drivers onto busy, congested roads to everyone's detriment. Rules are important, of course, but when we use zoning to fight every little thing we don't like, we end up with a Byzantine code mess, and that often produces large disruptive change. That's exactly what we're fighting against in the first place. So let's pick our battles carefully. In the comprehensive plan update, let's do things differently and get back to promoting people-oriented places. If we allow smaller incremental change in our city, we'll evolve organically like before. The right balance is no neighborhood should experience radical change, but at the same time, no neighborhood should be exempt from change. Sure, we might end up with something ugly or cool depending on your perspective, but that's what vibrant cities are: messy, complex, dynamic organisms, and we have to let them breathe. So remember, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Thanks for listening, and if you found these topics interesting, check out my blog at teamplan.org for a deeper dive in these topics. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you to all of the sponsors who made this evening possible, and of course to all of our speakers. There's someone I think you should meet, so please welcome now sort of the flint and the steel that create the sparks that make a night happen.
Big shout out to Lisa Ray up in the booth running all of the slides. Thank you, Lisa. And my crew backstage, we were live streaming all night, so it'll be archived on Facebook and then up on YouTube and then on the Ignite Annapolis website, so you can rewatch everything tonight. Thank you, Rigo Productions, Jesse and Katie from Tebow Media Group, Angie in the back. Thanks. Lisa. I said Lisa. And then thank you, Rob Tim.
Also, thank you to the crew at Maryland Hall. Always a fantastic group for us. They do so much. Stay tuned for details about an upcoming Ignite Annapolis Meet Me at the Market House event. Date to be determined, as is everything that involves the Market House. Oh, May 1st. All right, May 1st. We've settled on it. This meetup will connect past speakers from all years of Ignite, potential future speakers, organizers, sponsors, and other interested folks. Details will go out to the Ignite Annapolis email list and get posted on the website next week. Also, don't forget, everybody's going to Metropolitan Kitchen and Lounge after this for the after party. And also, don't forget, maybe you're the perfect person to be up here for Ignite number 5. Consider it. And go to igniteannapolis.com. Thank you.